Shalom to the 144,000 and the rest of the elect out there. Shalom to you all. I'll try to make this as quick as possible. Excuse me. So it's a two-part title. First is the Roman Empire mentioned in the Bible? And is America the new Rome? So we're gonna get on into it. So lately we've been going into the chat. All of us, seems like the spirit got, if not all of us, a lot of us, GMS going to the chat GBT and AI and so forth. You go to Google, go to AI mode, which is pretty much the same as chat. You got Grok. You got what is this? What is the Chinese version? Is it Deep Think? I think it's called. Somebody help me out because I haven't seen it. I think it's Deep Think. Anyway, so the answer is yes. The Roman Empire. If the Roman Empire existed, and we know it did historically, you have certain scholars that mention that so-called Jesus was around during that time period. There was an actual historical figure in the world called Jesus, or the Israelite world called Yahweh Shai. You know, you have they dug up certain, relics and so forth that prove the catacombs, the icons, that proved that the Messiah was back there 2,000 years ago. The disciples speaks about Paul. Go back far enough, you find Old Testament figures. That's Jeremiah 8:1. That they're going to use their science to use carbon dating and so forth, and to say, well, we found the sword, and we found it where David was supposedly, where his kingdom was, or where he lived, and we found out that the sword is more than 2,000 years old, or the shield, or part of the shield. Well, they found a long time ago in the 50s, they found Noah's Ark. They knew that it was in Mount Ararat, Turkey. So they read the scriptures, then they went out and they found, something that assembled a gigantic ship embedded into the rock. So we're talking about almost 6,000 years. You go back to the 50s, 60s, go back 5 plus 6,000 years. And the evidence is the ark is embedded in that rock, that mountain. So it says here, yes, the Roman Empire is mentioned in the Bible, both directly and indirectly. It plays a significant role, especially in the New Testament. Here are the main ways the Roman Empire appears. It says it plays a significant role, especially in the New Testament. That's why you see me, I do this a lot. I'll hit a scripture, I'll speak about a character in the Bible, or individual in the Bible, like the Messiah, Paul, and how Paul dealt with the captain, and how he went before Felix. Ultimately, he went before. Did he physically go through to? I know he went to Herod and Felix, and I believe Festus. So he went to these. So he went to these individuals, but he was condemned to death by Nero. We know who Nero is. Nero's back here among us. So he gonna come against the Israelites. Now, I don't know if he actually went face to face with Nero. Let me ask that question. Let me go ahead and ask that question. See, when you show certain scriptures to these Christians, they don't understand what they mean, what particular scripture means, because it's talking about something that happened in Rome. So now you got to go to the Rome of 2,000 plus years ago in Palestine, because we had our own culture, but we had to live under the laws of the Roman Empire. See, you got guys talking about Friday sundown and Saturday sundown is the Sabbath, and they're basing it off of the Gregorian calendar, which before that you had the Julian calendar, which Pope Gregory had to change that because it was completely out of whack. It was completely out of whack. Now this calendar that he did, this calendar is still out of whack. So there was years lost with the calendar when he had to switch up the calendar, because what was happening in the calendar was so off that you had summer months and it felt like fall. You know, you had winter months, it felt hot because the calendar was off. So where did I say I was gonna go? I was gonna go somewhere. Oh no, I'm sorry. This is what I said I was gonna do. Go to Google. Everybody's talking about the Hebrew, mainly the one Westers. They're not talking about the Yah Israelites, the Old Testament only Israelites, the Christian Israelites. Any nation can make it, and we're Israelites, and they're spiritual Israelites, and physical Israelites, spiritual Israelites gonna get together. We're gonna all go. No. When they curse out the Israelites, they're talking about former one Westers. So let them do what they got to do. We're going to still push this word. Okay. Did the Apostle Paul come face to face with Nero, emperor? Did the Apostle Paul come face to face? I don't want that. Let me do it again. Okay, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Okay, let's do this. Bear with me for a minute. Okay. Did the Apostle Paul come face to face with Emperor Nero? Well, there's no definite historical record confirming a face-to-face meeting. Well, he did ask to go before the emperor. He said he wanted to go before Caesar. I believe that's Acts 26, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to try to find that. It is widely believed that the Apostle Paul did encounter Emperor Nero during his imprisonment. Now remember, Nero is back among us, raising hell, because he was always a hell raiser. Imprisoned in Rome, likely as part of Paul's appeal to Caesar. Right, he said he wanted to appeal to Caesar. Because you had a governor that condemned you, you can go to a higher court. You can go to the Caesar himself. And then the Caesar had the last word. Okay, I overturn what Pontius Pilate said. The Yahushua did not go before the emperor of Rome at that time, which was Tiberius. Likely as part of Paul's appeal to Caesar, Paul's imprisonment and subsequent execution by beheading are often linked to Nero. Yeah, because Nero was in power. Nero's reign and the persecution of Christians and persecution of Israelites. He's persecuting them now. He's getting them the northern kingdoms. The northern kingdoms is crying, what about you, you Negroes, FBA? Because that's a spiritual connection. I said that Saturday. Them Mexicans and them Venezuelans, they ain't calling for Chinese to help them. They're calling for so-called black people to help them because they don't even know why. Because there's a spiritual connection. That's the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom again. Nero, Trump, is acting kind of like the king of Assyria, which was Shalmaneser V, which was a title, by the way. It wasn't his name. So you notice he ain't kicking Arabs out. He ain't kicking. We got to get rid of that. He ain't kicking. I ain't messing with the Arabs. You know. He ain't kicking Chinese out. You know, he ain't kicking nobody out. But the Latin tribes. And then he's talking about getting African Americans that they're really not Americans. They're not citizens. Now, if you can't see that this individual is not, you know, is Nero, then you got a problem. It says subsequent execution by beheading, not crucifixion, because he was a Roman citizen. They had to give him a more honorable death. See, you know what they did? They just hung niggas on trees and Arabs and shit. They didn't have. If you was a white man, Roman citizen, they said, "No, you committed a heinous crime, but we're gonna respectfully chop your head off, because you got to read who did somebody wrote something or did a video on it, going into the agony you went through." And I'm pretty sure if you put it in Google, it'll come up. It was a slow, agonizing death. It wasn't a quick death. It was a slow, agonizing, torturous death, if that's a word. So they saying they're not sure. It could, maybe not. But Nero did sign off on it. You know, yeah, go ahead and kill that nigga. I don't care if he's a Roman citizen, kill that nigga anyway. So now, let's come over here. Yes, the Roman Empire is mentioned in the Bible, both directly and indirectly. It plays a significant role, especially in the New Testament. Here are the main ways the Roman Empire appears. So when you read like Corinthians, right? Paul told men not, it's the same to have long hair, because they were Hellenized. When they would come up under the Hellenization of the Greeks, they were eating like Greeks. They were speaking Greek. They were they dressed like they wore the fashion of the Greeks, the hairstyles, the tattoos, whatever the case may be. They were heavy into the place of exercise, which is the ancient Olympics. So one of the things that the part of the Hellenistic Greek culture, rather, is men having long hair, usually having cornrows, which shows you that those were Jakes. So when Paul told the men in the Israelites in Corinth, he said, because pretty much all of them had that long hair, cornrows or whatever, and he said, "No, you can't. You got to cut them cornrows. You know, you got to cut that hair." And they wanted to keep their hair, just like Jake. You got a lot of guys in IUIC and other camps. You got these brothers that come in with the dreads, and they got it tied up and all that. They got them dreads, the fancy dreads. You know how back in the day you just had straight dreads. Now you got bows, and you know how you have, like, you bow it up and you cut off part of your, you put the razor to part of your face. You might cut the beard off and keep the dreads. And Jake don't want to. He spent years growing them dreads, right? So so the same thing happened back then, and I always bring that up. So you get brothers talking about, well, how long is long? Well, how long is long is during that time period, it was as long as the Greek men had their locks, and it was down to about the shoulder or longer. Shoulder length or longer, yeah. Inside joke. It was out there. I had to take it. That's from the movie. Or it was a play called Hair. It's a song. Give me a head of hair, long, beautiful hair. There was a man singing. There was a bunch of them singing. So that was a play, which was a movie. It was a play that became a movie during the hippie era. It's a historical and political context. By the time of the New Testament, the land of Yasha or Israel, or Yahweh, which is Judah, Judahite, or Judah land, for lack of a better word, was under Roman rule. The influence of Rome is deeply woven. The influence of Rome is deeply woven into the events surrounding our Lord and the early Christian church. So there were certain foods like Greek food that we like because we tasted it and we liked it. So, you follow that custom. When you go back to Egypt, when they were in the wilderness, what was the Israelites complaining? They said, we missed the food out there. I believe they said the fish, the leeks, what else? The onions, the garlic, which are all good foods. Probiotic and prebiotics. Key Roman figures mentioned in the Bible. Caesar Augustus, Luke 2:1, ordered the census, counting of the people, of the citizens that led Mary and Joseph to Bethlehem. Why? Because they came out of Bethlehem. So they represented the account that was in Bethlehem, right? Tiberius Caesar, Luke 3:1, Roman Empire during our Lord's ministry, and that's true. He was the longest ruling. Some scholars say 41, some say 44, 45. And I believe Tiberius was the second. His was 1920, if I'm not mistaken. Help me out, y'all. Like I said, when you go into these scriptures and you read certain scriptures, like you read about the centurion whose servant was sick, Christians will say, see, that was a centurion. See, he was a Gentile, a white man. Nope, you had Israelites, just like in America today. You have Jakes that are police officers, that are captains, that are lieutenants, that are mayors, that are vice presidents, that are presidents. Well, we know, what's this guy, Barack Obama? We believe he's a Hamite, but he's a black. They look at him as an African American, because you have Jakes in high up positions in authority. You have Jakes judges. You have two Jake Supreme Court judges. Justice Thomas and the other woman, she's recent. So you have two Jakes that are in the highest court in the land. They get to make decisions for the whole country. So the same thing happened back then. Oh, well, wait a minute, he was a centurion. That means he was a white man. No, Cornelius was a white man because he was an Italian man. Don't you know you had Israelites living all up in Italy? Pontius Pilate. Now, we don't know if Pontius Pilate, which is a governor, we don't know if he was a Jake or an Edomite. But he did say, look, I ain't seen nothing wrong with this guy. Kind of sound like it could be a Jake, a fair-minded Jake. Pontius Pilate, mentioned in all four Gospels, Roman governor who sentenced Yahushua to. It was actually the people, because he gave them a choice rather. Barabbas or him, and Barabbas was a cutthroat. He's a bad dude. He's a bad man. So he said, nah, man, spare him. Kill this nigga over here. So all you Jakes that was for that, The Most High got you right here in America to get that chip, and for you to eat a missile. You know, he gonna make you dodge them accidents, snowstorms, them near-death experiences. Now the Most High gonna keep your ass alive, so that you can get that chip, and you can eat a missile. And they're not gonna be lifted up in no chariot and sent over there to Basra. What the hell do you? What the fuck? What are you smoking, Hakkar and Hassad? What the hell are you smoking? Cause hey, I don't want none. Herod the Great and Herod Antipas, local client kings under Roman authority. I mean, they were kings, but they were under Rome. Centurions, like I said, the centurion, Cornelius, the centurion had the sick servant. They were both Israelites. And Roman soldiers, some of them were Edomites, others were Jake. The one that said, surely, truly this is the Son of the Most High. That wasn't no Edomite that said that. That had to be a Jake that said that. Appear frequently, such as the centurion with great faith. Yeah, he had great faith because he was an Israelite, Matthew 8. Or those who crucified Yahushua. Right, because one of them said, surely this is the Son of the Most High. Paul's ministry and Roman citizenship. The Apostle Paul was a Roman citizen. Acts 22 to 25 to 29. Which gave him legal rights and helped him during his missionary journeys. Now remember he said in 1 Corinthians 7, he said use the world, right? He said use the world. And he didn't abuse it either. He used the world. He used his status as a Roman citizen. He did things that the Apostle Peter couldn't do. Paul frequently interacted with Roman governors, right? Felix, Festus, and even Herod. It was a Herod Agrippa, if I'm not mistaken, and was eventually taken to Rome to appear to Caesar. So you got to read Acts chapters 25 to 28. Book of Revelation and symbolism. Revelation, especially chapters 13 and 17, is why. Now 13 is not the Roman Empire; it's America. Is widely interpreted. Well, then America is mentioned here too. Revelation 13, latter verses, is widely interpreted to include symbolic references to the Roman Empire, often portraying it as a beast or a persecuting power. It's not America a beast? It's not NATO a beast? Jake talking about, we got to take this place. You ain't taking down shit. This man got too much power. And he's in power because the Most High put him in power. The term Babylon in Revelation is often seen as a code word for Rome, which persecuted the Christians. Yeah, when you're talking about the new Rome, which is America, or NATO, and the EU. It says, give me a second, y'all. Daniel's prophecy, Old Testament, and Daniel 2 and 7, and we always speak on this. Visions describe a series of world empires. The fourth empire is commonly interpreted by many scholars, white scholars, the very best scholars they are, inside joke, and Christian traditions as Rome, especially in reference to its power during the time of Yahushua. Yeah, because they was in the height of their power. They started going down really in 96. Jake took over. So Nate, stop saying Septimius Severus in 193 AD came into power. He's the first Jake. No, he was not. It was Nerva. 96 AD. That was Jake. That's when Jake took over. Summary: while the Bible doesn't use the phrase Roman Empire, which it doesn't explicitly, it refers to its emperors, officials, laws, soldiers, and culture extensively, especially in the New Testament. The Roman Empire and the Roman Empire formed the political and cultural backdrop for much of Yahushua's life and the early church history. So they're playing, Rome is playing a part of it all over again. We are all reincarnated, right? So Rome, when I say Rome being reincarnated, the people that rule Rome, the Caesars, the Senate, they're back here. You ever watch the Senate sit down, the Congress sit down? Back then, 2,000 years ago, they were wearing togas. Now they wear suits and ties. The proper attire. What would they call that? They call it, there's another word for it. Proper attire, but they call it something else. If you're a lawyer, you got to be in your proper attire. Damn, the word is right on the tip of my tongue. Somebody help it. If one of you law students help me out, it'll come back to me. Damn, I hate that. Okay, so I read that. Did the Apostle Paul come face to face with Emperor Nero? So they, according to this, they say he did. And if he didn't, Paul's name went up to came before emperors. He said, "Man, kill that nigga, kill that nigga." Okay. All right, here it goes. The question of whether America is the new Rome is a complex one with no... So my question was, is America the new Rome? Is America the new Rome? AI overview. The question of whether America is the new Rome is a complex one with no simple answer. While there are some superficial similarities, well, you go down to DC, you go to any capital. I believe I've been through a lot of states, and if you go past the governors, they're what do you call it? You have the government office, the main government office for the state, and most of them, if not all of them, are replicas of DC, which DC was a replica of Rome. The founding fathers sat down and said, "We're going to build up DC, the capital. It's going to be likened unto Rome." Why? Because it's Rome coming. The founding forefathers were back there as Roman Empire emperors and Senate, where there are some superficial similarities in terms of global influence and cultural impact. Significant differences exist in political structures. Right, the Senate, right, the president, which is the emperor. In terms of global influence, anything that happens in America, the whole world hears about it. The whole world hears about it. The old saying, if America catches a cold, the rest of the world catches pneumonia or the flu. And cultural impact. Significant differences exist in political structure. I mentioned Senate, social dynamics, and the very nature of their respective empires, because America is an empire. Didn't it take down the Indians and set up states? It's an empire. And influence. I'm sorry, emperor is ultimately the analogy is the analogy meaning same as, analogous, same as, is often used to draw parallels in terms of power and influence. The U.S. is known as a world power. The U.S. is the unofficial head of NATO. And that's why the NATO nations really don't like America. Because his look was more stout than his fellows. But the historical and social, societal contexts are vastly different. How so? Here's a breakdown of the comparison. Similarities, global influence, both Rome and the U.S. Oh, they're getting ready to have it sometime in 2026 because John Jones says he wants to fight at the White House. So they really going to put it into play. The UFC is nothing but gladiator sport. It's a little bit softened down. They don't use swords and what you call it, tridents and nets and all that. They fight with their hands with the little 4-ounce gloves, and pretty much anything goes. You know, punches, elbows, knees, choking a person out, dislocating the shoulder, breaking the arm, hyperextending their arm, their wrist, or whatever. You know, there's ankle picks and Achilles locks. If you don't tap out in time, that's gladiatorial sports. And you know Nero's going to be there. He's going to be there. This never happened before. And they wanted doing it. I think it was it? I'm trying to think of presidents. Who signed in on the act, the Federal Reserve Act? Woodrow Wilson. I believe when Jack Johnson and Jeffries fought, they wanted the president of the United States to referee the fight, which he didn't. You know? So, no president in history ever had a boxing match at the White House. So they're going to have a gladiatorial event, the UFC, at the White House. Further proving that Trump is the spirit of one of them Roman empires, and we strongly believe if he ain't Nero, I'll be goddamned. I'll be quite surprised. Cultural reach, the spread of Roman culture through language, law, and architecture is mirrored by the global impact of American culture in areas like music, film, and popular trends. Yeah, popular trends come from Jake. Music come from Jake. Films a lot of it come from small hats. Small hats are behind the music industry and the film industry. Music is a spiritual thing, man. Certain music going to make you fall in love. Make you fall in love with a woman. You break up with a woman, you get back because you had your favorite song, and the song kept coming back and brought that. It happened to me. It happened to me. Inside joke. Deal with a woman, and you have your favorite song, and it ain't played, and y'all break up, and then a week y'all get back together because I said, well, we getting back together because of my favorite song. Our favorite song kept playing. It says, yeah, you get emotional with these with these women. You play it off like you're not emotional, but you get emotional too. Richard Pryor said that. He said a woman break up with you, you get hit by a bus or a truck, and you still walking like nothing, like you're all right. So military power. Yep. It clearly tells you the power of the beast and its iron teeth, which represents when they made their weapons. They use all these previous nations use iron, but no nation used the amount of iron as Rome did. On their armors, on their shields, their weapons, their swords, their helmets, everything was iron. Iron. It's hard to break iron, but iron breaks every other metal. It breaks through silver, gold. So it says, both empires, notice they call it America an empire. Both empires relied on strong militaries to protect their power and maintain control over vast territories. So what are the third world nations saying? Let the weak say, I am strong. The great equalizer are the missiles, ICBM missiles. You have three major world powers. US, Russia, then you got China. China's possessed missiles as well, ICBMs. And they're going to use them too. Infrastructure, both Rome and the US invested in large-scale infrastructure projects like roads, aqueducts, where you have a famous roadway called the Appian Way in Rome's case, and the public buildings to facilitate trade, governance, and civic life. Like you have the court buildings, you have the different government buildings. Well, the Romans had it in over here in America. Architectural influences. The architecture of Washington, D.C. draws heavily on Roman style. So when they built up D.C., they said we're going to build it like ancient Rome, which the Romans, their style came from Petra. If you take pictures of Petra and you get a close-up, you see eagles perched up on the pillars on either side. Roman architecture, symbolizing the desire to emulate the grandeur and power of the Roman Republic. Let me read that again. Architectural influences. The architecture of Washington, D.C. draws heavily on Roman style. The founding fathers said, let's build this like Rome. We're going to build this up to resemble Rome, the capital Rome, symbolizing the desire to emulate the grandeur and power of the Roman Republic. And this is a republic, not a democracy. And to the republic for which it stands, right? We used to say that in school. Differences, political system, Rome transitioned from a republic to an empire. America, this guy's sitting as that's why they had protests, a month ago? No kings? Because he's just saying, do this, do that. Certain courts are saying, no, you can't do that, and they saying, the fuck you. Roman, so this right now with Nero sitting up there, I'm surprised he ain't built the throne for himself. He might have a throne. I want you to build me a throne. When we have the UFC event, I want to have a throne. I want to have a crown on my head. He doesn't sit as a president. You look up the word, the term president, look up the meaning of the word, then you look up emperor. That's what he fits. I'm surprised he ain't got a goddamn crown on his head. It's a Rome transition from a republic to an empire, while the U.S. maintained a constitutional republic. Nope, now it's an empire. Now it's an empire. He's doing away. He threw it back. They asked him a question. Are you gonna, you made an oath to uphold the Constitution? Are you gonna keep it? Oh, you got to talk to my lawyers about that. It's either, it's a yes or no answer, bro. Brody, albeit with his own challenges to democratic ideas. Well, Rome is still democratic because the Senate voted the emperor in. Social status: Rome had a rigid class system, while the U.S., despite its own inequalities, emphasizes individual freedom and social mobility to a greater. That's bullshit. You losing freedoms every fucking day. Technological progress. Right, the technology at that time was mostly iron age. Slavery. While the U.S. has a history of slavery, the Roman system was more deeply entrenched and lacked the racial component of the American system, meaning they put everybody in slavery. You had Europeans in slavery, you had Africans in slavery, you had Arabs in slavery, you had Jake in slavery. And their form of government, you had to pay a tax or what do you call it, a tribute. Nature of empire. Some will argue that the U.S. is a hegemonic power, meaning, when I think of hegemony, when you look that word up, it means the bully of the block. They'll tell one country you got to do this, that, and the third. They don't do it. They'll say, oh, he's killing his own people. Let's go and bomb them. And they lay the place flat and kill everybody because this guy was killing his own people according to what they say. Babylon the Great's going to have his day. Trust me. And it's going to be soon. The chip got to come first, as we always say. Rather than an empire in the traditional sense, with its influence often exerted through soft power and economic means. Conclusion. We're going to close on this. While superficial similarities exist, the U.S. is not a direct successor or a simple reincarnation of ancient Rome. Yes, it is a reincarnation of ancient Rome. That's exactly what it is. The analogy, or meaning the same as, analogous, often oversimplifies the complexities of both historical periods and ignores crucial differences in political structures, social dynamics, and the very nature of their power. The difference in power now is they have the fighter jets. The Romans couldn't fly, but their symbol was the eagle, and the eagle's greatest asset is that the eagle can fly higher than any bird. So they can actually do that. They make these mechanical, these fighter jets and these stealth bombers and so forth, and they fly like the eagle. The U.S. has its own unique trajectory and challenges as a modern nation state. Oh, by the way, D.C. is a nation state, a city state rather. D.C. is a city state. There's 3 major city states: London, the Vatican City, and D.C. And comparing it to Rome, while tempting, requires careful consideration of the nuances involved, according to historical analysis sites. So I'm not going to go any further. So it's going to take me to AI mode. I'm just skimming through it. But we can see through the spirit that this is Rome all over again. This is definitely Rome. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say shalom on to the next shalom.